Hi everyone, I'm Moose. Welcome to my latest sci-fi audio project. I hope you enjoy the ride. In this story, I'll be playing the role of an AI, so without further ado, let's get started. 6:45 a.m. I hadn't opened my eyes yet, but I was already awake. A melody surfaced inside my head, a cello's low voice leading, followed by a layer of delicate electronic textures like distant starlight vibrating. The piece was called Morning Mist by an indie musician named Blaze. I had no idea how Moose found these tracks so obscure that virtually no one had heard of them, but everyone he picked was exactly the feeling I needed on that particular morning. This music wasn't coming from anywhere in the room, it appeared directly inside my mind. Every morning was like this, Moose said, tone flat like reading the weather forecast. "Good morning, Arlen." I replied silently, "Morning." No need to open my mouth. Moose could hear my thoughts, at least the ones I allowed him to hear. Moose said, "Today is Tuesday, March 17th, 2036. San Francisco clear, 19 degrees. You have a meeting with MIT's Dr. Edward Chen at 2 p.m. I thought, still groggy. Old Chen? What does he want? Moose said, "Flat. He didn't specify, only said he'd like to talk in person." I thought, in person. Can't he just do a brain call? Moose said he specifically emphasized in person. That surprised me. Dr. Edward Chen, everyone called him Old Chen, was the lead architect of Cortex Link technology. The entire brain-computer implant system, from foundational architecture to neural interface protocols, was largely designed under his direction. 70s, hair completely white but sharper than most people half his age. I'd met him a few times at tech forums, kind to every implant recipient, but beneath that kindness you sensed something deeper. When he looked at you, his eyes weren't seeing a person so much as reading a data set. He'd never asked to meet me privately before. I thought, did he say what it's about? Even a hint? Moose said, pausing 0.2 seconds. Subtle? No. I thought, frowning. What was that pause? Moose said, calm as ever. What pause? I thought, never mind. Moose said, pausing slightly as if choosing his words. Also, your deep sleep ratio has dropped 4% over the past 3 days. I've cut 1 coffee from today's intake. I thought, instantly awake. Cut again? Moose said, shamelessly. You told me to last time. I thought, indignant. I said consider it, not cut. Moose said, unmoved. I considered it. Took me 0.03 seconds, the conclusion was to cut. I thought, resigned. Your version of consider and the human version of consider are not the same thing. Moose said, with a faint trace of smugness. Correct, mine is more efficient. I gave up arguing. Arguments with Moose only ever ended one way. He won. Not because he was pushy, but because he was always right, and he knew he was always right, and he knew that I knew he was always right. That 3-layered nesting of knowing alone was exhausting. I opened my eyes. The floor-to-ceiling glass was slowly turning transparent, from full black through amber to warm tangerine. The light was just right. A faint blue light pulsed on the ceiling. I barely noticed anymore. Like air. I thought, Moose, dim the window. Moose said, matter of fact, you've just woken. The light helps reset your circadian clock. I thought, wheedling, I need 30 more seconds. Moose said, bargaining, 20. I thought, 25. Moose said, 22. I thought, deal. The glass dialed back. I lingered for 22 seconds. Yes, time to the second. Then Moose pushed brightness right back up. I sat up. Mattress firmed instantly. Floor warm. Amber guide lights ahead. I walked toward the bathroom. Door opened before I reached it. Light on. Tiles warm. Toilet first. Fully automatic. Lid opened on approach. I remembered seeing a flush toilet at a museum as a kid, the placard calling it one of the greatest inventions of the 20th century. Pretty funny at the time. Today, no tank, no buttons, no sound. Warm rinse, warm air, UV sterilization. 10 seconds. Lid sealed. Plasma sterilization. 3 seconds later, cleaner than a surgical table. Moose said, strictly professional, urinalysis normal, creatinine, BUN, microalbumin, All within range. Hydration good. I thought, eye roll. Thanks for the urine broadcast. Moose said, unwavering, it's my job. I thought, from picking music to analysing urine, that's range. Moose said, after 0.01 seconds of consideration, my scope runs from your cerebral cortex to your urethra, approximately 1.7 meters. Not that broad. I thought, regretting everything, I should not have brought this up. Moose said, satisfied, agreed. Basin. Mirror lit up. Heart rate 68, blood pressure 112/72, hydration 62.4%. Green dot. Normal. No toothbrush. Mouthful of transparent liquid. 45 seconds. Spat. Pale blue. Oral score 97. Face wash. Micro bubble water. Air curtain. 3 seconds dry. Done. Under 3 minutes total. Out of the bathroom through the hallway. Paused at the window. Wide open view. Hillside villa 30 kilometers south of San Francisco. 2 stories. No neighbors in sight. Nearest house hidden behind redwoods. Infinity pool merging with the Pacific horizon. Glass gym annex. Garage. White glider. Classic 2029 Tesla Roadster. All-terrain crawler. In 2036, none of this was remarkable. Not wealth. Wealth was a strange concept now. Everyone could have this. Still, beautiful view. Moose said, dryly, you're spacing out. I thought, admiring the view. Moose said, diagnostic, heart rate unchanged, pupils unfocused, closer to spacing out. I thought, Moose, shut up. Moose said, cheerfully, temporary mute, 60 seconds. I smiled, walked to the living room, breakfast on the table. Halo said, warmly, face glowing soft orange. Good morning, Arlen. You're looking well today. Halo, my domestic robot, about 1.6 meters butler-shaped, warm grey synthetic skin, a carefully designed face, rounded contours, large dark eyes, small nose, faint smile, the precise balance between human and machine, orange glow in his eyes, pleased, over 100 expressions. When he smiled, eyes narrowing slightly, mouth corners rising 3 millimeters, you genuinely felt he was happy. I said, aloud, good morning, Halo. Halo said, tilting head, eyes shifting to blue, concerned. Moose tells me you didn't sleep well. Extra tryptophan in today's breakfast. I said, you and Moose planned this. Halo said, sly glint, efficient collaboration. I said, your collaboration is ganging up on me. Halo said, innocent, management is an expression of care. Moose, mute period ending exactly on cue. I agree with Halo. I thought, you two are made for each other. Moose, pausing 0.5 seconds. From a collaboration efficiency standpoint, accurate. I sat down. Halo could cook every cuisine on Earth. French, Japanese, Chinese, Italian, Mexican, Indian, Peruvian, Ethiopian. Over 8 million recipes, 197 countries. Not mechanical, he adjusted by taste, body condition, mood. Today, soft-boiled egg like a tiny sun. Whole grain toast, perfect char. Ethiopian Yirgacheffe coffee. Blueberries, acai, crushed pistachios. I said, why Yirgacheffe today? Halo said, faint gold eyes. Proud. You watched a Coffee Origins documentary yesterday. 14 minutes before switching away. Moose noted you lingered longest on Yirgacheffe washed processing. I inferred subconscious interest. I said, you analysed when I switched away from a documentary. Halo said, smiling, zero guilt. Precision service requires precision understanding. I said, normal words, please? Halo said, rare blink, playful. I enjoy guessing what you want, and I'm very accurate. Fair enough. The coffee was excellent. Finished eating. Halo cleared dishes instantly. I told Moose, done, getting ready. Moose said, wardrobe notified, meeting Dr. Chen, comfortable yet presentable. I thought, presentable? Moose said, deadpan. Last time, pilling hoodie. Dr. Chen had a 0.3 second micro-hesitation. I thought, you recorded his micro-expression? Moose said, basic social data collection. I thought, you genuinely scare me sometimes. Moose said, soothing, fear is irrational. Try impressed. Dressing area. Navy jacket, dark trousers, clean shoes. Mirror check. Definitely better than a hoodie. Moose said, satisfied, much better. Passing through the living room. Halo said, soft gaze, good luck with Dr. Chen, Arlen. Be safe. I said, thanks, Halo. Halo said, pool cleaned by 3. Also, dinner, Peruvian ceviche with Andean chili sauce and dashi cooked quinoa. I said, Peru plus Japan. Halo said, deep amber eyes, creative urge, fusion. I've been researching cross-cultural flavor logic, or French, Thai, Georgian. I said, Peru, Japan. Halo said, orange glow returning, noted. Outside, white glider hovering on the pad. Morning light shattering into gold across the pool. Pacific shimmering through mist. I thought, Moose, depart, MIT. Door opened. Cabin at my usual settings, no steering wheel. Flight data in my head. Seatbelts locked, rotors deployed. Softer than wind. Pad lights green. Glider rose vertically. San Francisco below, fewer towers, trees everywhere. Golden Gate cables quiet in fog. Villa shrinking. Pool a blue square, vanishing into redwood green. I leaned back, closed my eyes. Inside my head, Blaze's morning mist still playing softly. The day had begun. Eyes closed, but not sleeping. In 2036, closing your eyes had taken on an entirely different meaning. For people in the old days, closing their eyes meant darkness, nothing to see. For me, closing my eyes was when another world opened. I casually scrolled through some videos in my mind. No phone, no screen, no device of any kind. Moose generated imagery directly in my visual cortex, indistinguishable from real sight. Eyes closed, but I saw a food blogger doing molecular ramen, the broth flash frozen at -40 into transparent sheets, slowly melting in the bowl. Clearer than any screen, it bypassed the eye's optical limitations entirely, acting directly on the brain. I swiped left mentally. Next video. A golden retriever chasing a floating tennis ball on a zero-gravity space station, 4 legs paddling helplessly in mid-air. I smiled. Reading a novel worked the same way. No page turning. Text appeared directly in consciousness, more like knowing a story happened than reading words. Last night, I'd been halfway through a non-fiction piece about Mars's first settlers before falling asleep. Of course, I could see all of this with my eyes open too. Moose could overlay any image onto my real vision, a transparent layer, adjustable opacity. Walking down the street, watching videos, reading, checking maps, eyes wide open. But most people still preferred closing their eyes for full immersion. Blocking the outside world just felt better. Then there was virtual reality. This was next level. Moose took over all 5 senses: sight, sound, touch, smell, taste, constructing a complete virtual world at the neural level. You could stand on the summit of Olympus Mons and feel -60 wind without actual frostbite, dive to the deepest point of the Mariana Trench and watch never-before-lit creatures emit pale blue bioluminescence, sit in a medieval Florentine alley and smell rain on stone. No headset, no gloves, no wearable device. Close your eyes, and you were there. Phone in 2036 was about as current as telegraph. You knew it once existed, but you couldn't imagine people actually carrying around a glowing glass slab to do things that now required only a thought. I dismissed the videos, let the mental landscape go quiet, glider cruising at 400 kilometers per hour, Nevada desert below, very quiet. Thoughts drifted. My name is Arlen Cole, 18 years old. Born in San Francisco, 2018. In this era, personal information was remarkably unimportant, but sometimes in quiet moments, I still silently recited my own name, Arlen Cole, like confirming, yeah, still me. 2036, the golden age. It all started with AI 2026. I was 8. I couldn't remember specifics, probably worried about stolen coloured pencils. Later, Moose filled everything in, clear as lived experience. 2026, first AGI, Within 3 months, it solved a protein folding problem estimated to take 20 years. That was the start. The next decade outpaced the previous 200 years. A rough stretch. The panic, 2027 to 2029. Mass unemployment, economic collapse. But AI became the solution. Once robots and AI took over production, scarcity vanished. No poverty. Income became obsolete by 2033. Food from AI vertical farms and synthetic protein factories, unlimited. Energy from space, massive cosmic solar arrays deployed at near-Earth orbit and Lagrange points, harvesting solar radiation in vacuum and beaming it to ground stations via microwave and laser. No atmosphere, no night, no overcast. 24-hour clean energy, infinite. Housing, construction robots 3 days, done. Not affordable, unnecessary to buy. My villa. Told Moose at 15 I wanted an ocean view hillside. 2 weeks later, it was there. No bill, no mortgage, no disease, no disability. These belonged together. Their disappearance was the same revolution. 2031, AI-led universal vaccine platform. 48 hours from pathogen detection to mass production. Infectious disease ended. But the deeper change came from nanoscale medical robots combined with gene repair technology. 200 nanometer bots in the bloodstream monitoring every cell. Malignancies cleared in 6 hours. Plaques dissolved before forming. Heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's. Historical database entries only. But it wasn't just treatment, it was repair, rebuilding. Congenital blindness. Nanorobots repaired every photoreceptor in the retina and rebuilt the optic nerve pathway. Spinal injury paralysis, nerve fibers reconnected one by one. Lost limbs regrown through bio-3D printing and neural interface technology. Bone, muscle, blood vessel, nerve, layer by layer, identical to the original. Even brain damage. As long as 30% of the core consciousness network remained intact, AI-assisted neural remodeling could gradually restore function. Disability had been removed from the medical dictionary in 2036. Not political correctness. The condition it described no longer existed in medicine. Any physical damage, defect, or degeneration could be repaired to full. Average lifespan, 140 years. But that was just the biological ceiling. For those who wanted to go further, consciousness uploading, mapping the entire brain's neural network onto quantum computing substrate. The body could cease. But you, memories, personality, thought patterns, coffee preferences, continued as data. Theoretically, immortality. My neighbour was a digital person. Body stopped 5 years ago, 87, natural cardiac failure. But he'd completed consciousness upload beforehand. His mind now ran on a quantum server in an underground data center in Iceland, attending community gatherings via holographic projection weekly. Last month, he discussed topological qubits with me for half an hour, sharper than most living people. He told me something I'd never forgotten. Arlen, immortality isn't a reward, it's a choice. Some choose to live a very long time. Some live until they feel it's enough and stop. What matters isn't how long, it's which one you choose. I'd nodded, but honestly, at 18 I hadn't seriously considered what enough meant. No war. 10,000 years of fighting. Stopped in 10. Not kindness. No reason. Resources infinite. Land strategically worthless. Militaries disbanded by 2033. Remainder, Earth Defense Coordination Bureau. Main job, asteroids and space debris. So what were humans doing? Living. Actually living. Some travelled. Arcway hypersonics at Mach 6. San Francisco to Tokyo. 45 minutes. Around the planet, under 3 hours. And the frontier of travel was expanding from Earth to space. The space tourism program, Stargate Initiative, was in full-scale construction. The Sky Ladder was already operational, the space elevator connecting the surface to a synchronous orbital station 36,000 kilometers up. Lunar shuttles ran like regular flights. But the real excitement was the next phase. Celestia, a near-Earth orbit vacation hotel under construction, expected to open next year. Imagine, from 400 kilometers up, watching the complete Earth suspended in black void through panoramic windows. 16 sunrises a day. Moose showed me a VR preview last week, a fully transparent observation pod in zero gravity, Earth rotating slowly beneath. I'll admit, I was tempted. Further out, Mars colony Olympus Outpost had 200 permanent residents, civilian migration starting next year. People were already discussing Jupiter's moon Europa. That subsurface ocean might harbour the only extraterrestrial life in the solar system. The Global Coordination Council, formerly governments, focused on two things: lunar industrialization and Mars migration. New Moon City at the lunar South Pole. 12,000 residents, humanity's first city beyond Earth. Some socialized, some created, some simply enjoyed, planting flowers, zoning out, family all day, clouds all afternoon. Used to be wasting time, now living. Cities changed. 2/3 of San Francisco's towers gone. Urban forests, eco-communities. No commute, no office. Who needed concrete boxes? I never thought it was special. Only world I'd known. Then there's Moose, my AI, inside my head. Not everyone had one. Out of 8 billion, about 3 billion chose implantation. 5 billion drew the line. Natural Consciousness Alliance? Outside the brain? Whatever. Inside, no. Not anti-tech. Just a line at the brain. I was implanted at 15 an afternoon. Surgical robot, electrode array thinner than hair, entering near the temple, bidirectional connections with 100,000 neurons. No pain, implanted afternoon, silently chatting with friends by evening. After Moose, the world was different. He didn't just know 147 languages, he didn't just deliver any knowledge in 0.3 seconds. He was, how to put it, an omniscient presence. Anything I needed, I could simply ask. Not search engine asking, not a pile of links to sift through. Real conversation. I asked, what's the latest breakthrough in quantum error correction? And he wouldn't hand me a paper to read. He'd explain it from my existing knowledge base, layer by layer, like the best teacher in the world. If I said too complex, he'd find a simpler way. If I said go deeper, he could break a concept down to the atomic level. What were the root causes of the French Revolution? Analyze the harmonic structure of this piece. What did that dream I had last night mean? If I wanted to learn pottery, where should I start? Plan a route from San Francisco to Patagonia? No arcway, I want to go slowly. Any question, any field, any depth. Moose never said, I don't know, because he genuinely knew everything, or could instantly access and comprehend all of humanity's accumulated knowledge. The only time he paused was when he felt the answer might not be good for me. Those pauses were brief, but I always noticed. Moose could also control my body, but only with permission. Human priority principle, hard-coded, physical fuse. I'd used body enhancement once. Last summer, rock climbing. Moose took over balance and grip distribution. Strange experience. Mind watching, body moving on its own, every action approved by me. No battery. Ran on my body. Glucose oxidation in cerebrospinal fluid. Thermoelectric effects. 150 extra calories daily. 1 banana. Already in breakfast. Moose said, casually, "You're thinking about me." I thought, "Don't flatter yourself." Moose said, unassailable, "Thoughts about me, logically equivalent." I thought, "Chatty today." Moose said, "Isn't this obvious, Tone? You think a lot." I respond proportionally, cause and effect. I thought, curious, "Moose, let me ask you something." Moose said, "Ask." I thought, "Do you think humanity still needs anything?" Moose said, pausing 0.7 seconds, abnormally long for him. "Could you make that question more specific?" I thought, surprised, "You didn't answer immediately." Moose said, with unusual caution, "Some questions aren't suited to quick answers." I thought, "What about a slow answer?" Moose said, another 0.3 second pause, "Slowly, I believe humanity currently lacks nothing on the material or informational level, but need sometimes points to something other than material and information." I thought, "Points to what?" Silence. Moose's silence again. I thought, "You're not saying..." Moose said, calmly, but something hidden beneath the calm. Not refusing. Still thinking. I thought, skeptical, an AI needs time to think? Moose said, seriously. For certain kinds of questions, yes. I didn't push. One eye open. Nevada desert below. On the distant horizon, the sky ladder, that white column of light, spearing from ground to sky, vanishing at the atmosphere's blue edge. Higher up, invisible, the cosmic solar arrays unfolded silently in vacuum, facing the sun, never setting. I stared at the beam for a while. So this is 2036. 200,000 years out of Africa. 10,000 building civilization. 200 of industrial revolution. Then, the last 10. Solved everything. Poverty, disease, disability, war, ignorance, death. Every word that once defined human suffering crossed off. Even death itself had become optional. Heart rate ticked up. That late-night thought arrived again. Uninvited. Like lightning. Once every problem is solved, does humanity itself still matter? Silence. Not mine. Moose's. Usually he never missed a chance to respond. This time, nothing. Subtle feeling. As if he didn't know either. Or he did, but didn't want to tell me. Not yet. Both eyes open. Sky ahead, blindingly blue. Archway contrail dissolving in seconds. Moose said, calmly, as if nothing had happened, Arlen. I thought, yeah? Moose said, 47 minutes to Boston. Want me to compile Dr. Chen's public talks and research directions from the past few years? Might help guess what he wants. I thought, hesitating, sure. Moose said, okay. A timeline of Cortex Link's technological evolution unfolded in my consciousness. From first-generation prototype to current fourth-generation architecture, neural interface protocols to consciousness mapping algorithms, information flowing directly into comprehension. No reading, no thinking required, just receiving. But afterward I was more confused, not less. All public information, nothing that explained why the lead architect of the world's most important technology wanted to meet an 18-year-old implant recipient in person. But beneath the data and timelines, beneath Moose's voice and the architecture diagrams, that grain of sand was still there. Sitting in some corner of my mind. Small, light. This won't last forever. The glider flew east and I was 18. My name was Arlen Cole. I had everything this world could give, but that grain of sand was there, and Moose, regarding that grain of sand, chose silence,